Quad bike?
No, I don't, I'm afraid, Count Corla. I do, however, own an electric scooter to declare my interests in that regard. But obviously, they are not the disruptive issue in my constituency. Quad bikes and scramblers, Minister, are the issue I wish to discuss today. They are causing grave disruption to many communities right around the M50 perimeter. Deputies from Dublin Bay North, around the Darndale Coolock area in particular, deputies in Dublin North West, around the Finglas and Ballymun area in particular, deputies in Dublin Mid-West, Dublin South Central and Dublin South West. All the communities around the M50, with green spaces in particular, would be very, very familiar indeed, Minister, with the scourge that scramblers and quad bikes pose to communities. People use these vehicles, they terrorise people in parks, they terrorise people on roads. Gardaí are reluctant to chase them naturally because that could result in an even worse accident. Deputy Desi Ellis of Sinn Féin brought forward a private member's bill some weeks ago with regard to the redefining of public spaces in the sense that parks are not covered under road traffic legislation, and he contested that they should be in order to allow for pursuit of these vehicles in parks. The Attorney-General advised, and both our government and Fianna Fáil accepted, that that is not the approach that we should take, but nevertheless an approach should be taken. The categorisation of good legislation, to my mind, is that good legislation fulfils the objectives that it sets out to achieve and that it doesn't cause any unforeseen negative consequences. Unfortunately, Deputy Ellis's bill, while it intended good things, may have caused unforeseen other consequences, is my understanding of the advice. But nevertheless, that doesn't mean we shouldn't do anything about it. Accordingly, I know the Minister for Justice has been active in this regard, setting up a cross-agency grouping to discuss the issue and to thrash out what solutions, be they legislative solutions or otherwise, should be considered in relation to this scourge. So, Minister, I suppose what I'm looking for here is an update with regard to progress made and a roadmap to where this progress is going. This has gone on for a long time now. I can assure the Minister and indeed the House that come Christmas time there will be a new wave of presents given to children and teenagers in good faith, but that will nevertheless be misused, be they quad bikes or scramblers. And these issues right across both urban areas in Dublin and across the country will rear their head again. This happens very predictably, Minister, every Christmas time and indeed at the height of summer time as well. And I really would like to see a roadmap and some concrete tangible proposals and solutions outlined so that we don't simply go through the motions yet again for another year. So I'd welcome any progress that you can report and indeed any timeline that you can set out, Minister. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Rock. Minister English.
Again, I want to thank Deputy Rock for raising this very, very important public safety concern that is affecting a number of local communities, both in his own area and other parts of the country as well. So I want to again thank the Deputy for having this discussion today. Deputy will recall that my colleague Minister for Justice and Equality, Minister Flanagan, responded to his parliamentary question on the same issue in February of this year as well. And again, I want to pass on Minister Flanagan's apologies. He's actually tied up in the Shannon at the moment, so he couldn't be here, but he did want to be here because it is an important discussion, and I know Deputy Rock would like to have him here as well. So on his behalf, I'll share the update for you and the follow-up reply, if that's okay. So Minister Flanagan shares the Deputy's concern in relation to the misuse of scramblers and quad bikes, and the Minister's concerns are noted many times in the record of this House. The effects of antisocial behaviour arising from the use of these off-road vehicles can be devastating and life-changing, as highlighted today by Deputy Rock and Deputy Ellis on RTE's Today with Sean O'Rourke's show. It is because of a horrific accident in Darndale Park on Saturday 9th of June this year that we have a gentleman left in a vegetative state and whose wife is also very seriously injured. On behalf of Minister Flanagan, I extend my heartfelt sympathy to Ms Costigan and to her and her family and her husband's families on the tragic accident. This tragic incident highlights how the misuse of scramblers and quad bikes can profoundly affect a whole family, and not just the people who have been injured. We are also sadly reminded of the fatalities that have occurred in recent years as a direct result of the misuse of these vehicles. You will appreciate, Deputy Lord Rock, that while the Minister has no direct role in the prevention of antisocial behaviour or the enforcement of road traffic legislation, these being operational matters for the Garda Commissioner. The impact of the misuse of scramblers and quad bikes is simply unacceptable for families who should feel safe and secure in their own local communities. This is why Minister Flanagan has asked his officials to focus on this public safety issue. The Deputy will be aware that the Department convened a cross-agency meeting on the 25th of April 2018 with key government departments and Garda Síochána and the Road Safety Authority. The purpose of the cross-sectorial meeting was to ascertain whether there are additional legislative or other solutions which can assist in dealing with the misuse of scramblers and quad bikes more comprehensively, with a view to determining responsibility and timeframes for implementation of solutions identified. And I note you're looking for a timeline, and that's what he's trying to achieve for you as well, Deputy Rock. The Department has consulted with a considerable number of government departments and public bodies over the past number of months to identify a number of relevant pieces of legislation which have been brought to the attention of the Office of the Attorney-General to determine whether any legislative amendments are necessary to assist in curbing activity insofar as scramblers and quad bikes are concerned, without giving rise to any unintended negative legislative consequences. I am pleased to confirm that the Department has, in fact, received formal legal advice from the Office of the Attorney-General just this week. The advice is comprehensive in nature and has now been carefully considered by officials in the Department, together with the Department of Transport, Tourism and Sport in the context of road traffic legislation. The Department has met separately with local authorities and participates in a task force established by South Dublin County Council to consider the public order implications of the misuse of these off-road vehicles at a community level. The task force has met on 2 occasions to date and is scheduled to meet again on the 14th of November. The task force is a useful and important forum, and indeed, task force discussions inform the Department's correspondence with the Office of the Attorney-General. On behalf of Minister Flanagan, I would like to take this opportunity to reiterate the Minister's commitment to actively supporting any positive actions that can be pursued in response to the serious public safety issues arising from the misuse of scramblers and quad bikes, and certainly when they have had an opportunity at his department to study the legal advice, we shall be able to give you a better update in relation to timelines.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Rock.
Thank you, Ceann Comhairle, and thank you, Minister. This is a serious issue for many of the communities affected, and indeed for the 2 individuals you've outlined whose lives have been tragically affected by that incident in the park. In fact, some 190 people have been injured, some severely, and indeed there have been some deaths as a consequence of the misuse of these scrambler vehicles and quad vehicles. They are a blight on many communities and many areas throughout the city, be it for those directly affected, for those who are afraid to go to our parks, for those who are afraid to go outside their front doors. This is an issue that is affecting and blighting many communities, particularly in working class areas and working class communities right across Dublin. So I'd urge the Minister to take this seriously, to listen to the advice, to listen to the deputies right across parties around this House who are saying that this is a serious issue and that it needs to be considered and that it needs some action to be taken before we have another unfortunate incident. I take Minister English's via Minister Flanagan's update in the spirit that it's intended. It seems encouraging. I'm glad to see that we have some advice on the table from the Office of the Attorney-General this week, and I hope that we will be able to act on that advice and to bring forward something that will curb the misuse of these vehicles and curb the inappropriate behaviour that we see day after day and week after week. I think if our intention is to stand up for working class communities and for areas that are blighted by these vehicles, then we need to act on this and act on this now. So thank you very much, Minister, and I look forward to updates in due course.
Thank you, Deputy Rock. Minister.
Again, Deputy Rock, just to add to my previous comments, the Department has also reached out to a number of local community groups in the context of positive engagement fostered with local communities. Department officials are also engaging with a number of overseas jurisdictions to further inform the multi-pronged approach required to deal with the serious antisocial and dangerous behaviour associated with the misuse of these vehicles. At the previous meeting of the task force in September, local authorities agreed to log all complaints and incidents regarding scramblers and quad bikes in open spaces and parks during the week beginning the 17th of September in order to attempt to gauge the appropriate scale of the issue. This outcome of this exercise will be discussed at next week's task force meeting. Arising from the task force meetings, the road safety officers from each of the Dublin-based local authorities have agreed to organise a public awareness campaign urging parents not to purchase scramblers and quad bikes as Christmas presents for minors. In addition, the Road Safety Authority has agreed to bring forward a similar safety campaign. And Minister Flanagan would also like to echo the Deputy's request on radio this morning to parents not to buy off-road vehicles for their children as Christmas gifts. Road safety is a shared responsibility for all road users and not just on Garda Síochána, the RSA and the other state bodies. So certainly I would urge, and Minister Flanagan would urge, anyone affected by or with information about these types of antisocial behaviour to contact the local Gardaí. The Garda confidential line in 1800 666 111, which is a monitored free phone line that allows members of the public to contact on Garda Síochána with information of a confidential nature or Crime Stoppers on 1800 25 0025. So again, Deputy Rock, on behalf of Minister Flanagan, I acknowledge the genuine commitment of all agencies involved in endeavouring to effectively resolve the public safety concerns associated with the misuse of scramblers and quad bikes. I know that Minister Flanagan will continue to closely monitor the cross-agency engagement, and I'd like to conclude by thanking Deputy Noel again for raising this issue.